The first one, unsurprisingly, was Joel Embiid's debut. Anytime a former MVP debuts about 10 games into the season for a team that is truly flailing right now, you got to talk about it and break it down. And look, let's start with a big picture look at this game before we dive in and talk about the tape. So the 76ers lose this game to the New York Knicks 111-99. I've been pretty hard on the Knicks defense so far this year. I think this was probably the best game the Knicks defense played. I will also note that I think the 76ers are a team that just really plays into their hands, just because the 76ers right now, without Tyrese Maxey, the biggest thing that I just felt watching them was this overall lack of athleticism. They didn't have any speed out on the court. It felt easy to guard them. As Dirty Dancer brings up in the comments, the Knicks were switching way more than they have been. That's right. And it felt like the 76ers just didn't really have any recourse to do anything about it. And that was a real issue. It was a real issue tonight. Karl Towns goes for 21 points. OG Anunoby, I think, had one of his better games of the season, if not his best game of the season, going for 24. But the key here is Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid goes for 13 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. But he goes 2 for 11 from the field. And we'll talk about some of the ways that he made the 76ers' life easier in half-court offense. But I also felt that he just really slowed things down a little bit too. It feels like this team does really need Tyrese Maxey there in order to get anything that is easy. Everything felt difficult. It felt like a slog for the 76ers tonight on offense. And, you can look at this a couple of different ways, right? I believe according to Synergy tonight, the 76ers, and I'm pulling this up as we look at it, got outscored in transition 28-11. And you could kind of feel that. You could feel the Knicks were having an easier time getting up and down the court. Even though they're playing guys 38 minutes a night and 40 minutes a night in the last game, it felt like the 76ers got more tired to me as well. 76ers played 9 guys at least 18 minutes tonight. The Knicks are only going 6 deep basically right now. The Knicks still felt like the fresher team to me tonight. And look, like, we're going to talk about this when we go through the tape. We're absolutely going to break down Joel Embiid tape here, and I'll pull that up now. He looked rusty. He looked like a guy that was not playing basketball at this high of a level for a while. But I was more just staggered with how slow they looked, how tired everybody else looked even, let alone just Joel Embiid. So let's just kind of dive in. I think what I want to focus on here, beyond that big picture look, is more what the 76ers ran in order to try to get Joel Embiid a little bit loose here. So this was the first set of the game, basically. Embiid's going to catch at the elbow. And they run just like a nice little backdoor play for Paul George here. So Kyle Lowry's going to inbound to Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's going to enter this into Embiid here. We're going to have to go pink today on this court, it looks like. Going to enter this into Embiid here. And then Lowry's just going to filter in and kind of set like a pin screen here, like a little wrap pin almost. And Paul George is going to get free from Anunoby. I don't totally know what Jalen Brunson's looking at here, in all honesty. It looks like Anunoby is expecting. I mean, they're not expecting to switch that. Anunoby just kind of has to fight through. It's a hard guard. I kind of think you just have to switch that at the end of the day. And the 76ers did end up, or the Knicks, I'm sorry, the Knicks did end up switching quite a bit tonight. We'll talk about that. But, here Embiid's just going to catch at the 3-point line. He settled a lot tonight. I don't know if he got really anything easy. It was kind of, everything looked difficult for him, and that's fine. It's obviously okay that things look difficult for him. It's his first game of the year. It's not always going to be easy. He played 26 minutes tonight. Embiid picks up in transition here. Kind of a weird defensive possession on this one. I'm just not sure what the Sixers are doing here in terms of who they're picking up. So Embiid goes to stop the ball. Really, I would just kind of like to see, I mean, this is fine. Embiid's going to stop the ball, but once Caleb Martin gets back, which he is here, you can see Caleb ends up saying, hey, you got to get back this way. Embiid just stays that extra split second longer, and it creates a long closeout onto Towns. Towns is too good with the ball in his hands to be able to stop in that circumstance. Honestly, a little bit lucky he didn't get called for a foul. I think Towns was right there. Now we're going to post. Again, we're just kind of on the block here, 12, 10 feet away. And it just feels difficult. It feels hard. Feels like he doesn't quite have the fluidity that he typically does. Typically, Joel is a player that, can flip his hips and has this incredible footwork to be able to spin and create these little crevices. He's just a little slower right now. Towns does a good job here, basically walling up, forcing him to the baseline. Ends up getting the shot clock violation there. Next here, just an early ball screen from Embiid. Sets up here like it could be just like a Chicago or a Zoom action. But Caleb Martin doesn't actually come this way. And Embiid loses the ball. Embiid has Oubre filter through. Then gets to an empty side action with Paul George here. Ends up losing the ball again on the short roll pass here. Interesting here that the Knicks end up kind of putting 2 on the ball, basically. I don't even really think that Mikal is icing this necessarily. It just seems like they're kind of putting 2 on the ball. Typically, the Knicks are going to ice most sideline ball screens. I love the help here from Josh Hart. Gets himself there, makes himself available, forces the Embiid turnover. Just not crisp tonight. Wasn't all that crisp tonight. This is an action the 76ers ran a ton of tonight. Here, we're kind of catching it a little bit later. But either via a horn set or, via a different set, they typically had a guard come across and set this screen here. We'll get a fuller look at it in a later clip. And they would have Embiid try to get to the block by shooting across off of this screen. Does a good job here getting deep position on Towns. Look where his foot is already. Once Embiid gets his foot in the restricted area, it's just going to be really hard to deal with them. Towns has to give the foul here. Right call. But I like this action. I think it got a little bit predictable, as we'll talk about here momentarily a little bit later. But I do think it's a sharp action that you can continually run somewhat regularly to get Embiid a clean look. Defensively here, Embiid, again, side ball screen, big to small. Those can be a little bit tricky. They just decide to stay home instead of forcing anything baseline. Embiid does end up getting beat here. Honestly, a lot of the time, I would expect Towns to be able to finish this. I mean, that's a really clean look at the end of the day. Didn't really think that was a great defensive rep there from Embiid. Again, the 76ers and Embiid right now just look a little bit slow. This one was really disappointing to me defensively, in all honesty. So the 76ers did a few different things in ball screens tonight. Early on, they played in drop, very similar to this here, right? Drop's going to be that Embiid is going to retreat, and the guard here, in this case, Oubre, has to fight over the top of the screen. When you have a big who can shoot and you're in an empty side action like this, it is very difficult to leave the shooter. We talked about this in the Knicks game against the Pacers, if you remember that. You do kind of have to find a way to kind of split this difference here between the shooter popping and the ball handler. I think Embiid could stand to be a little bit further this way, even while still being able to account for Towns here. But more than anything, I mean, this reach is abysmal. That can't happen. And then if you're going to reach like this, you have to turn your head and find your man immediately. He doesn't. He just stands up, doesn't do anything. And Towns ends up getting the offensive rebound behind him for an easy putback. That's the kind of effort that just that can't happen. It's unacceptable, unfortunately. And you could say, first game back is what it is. I mean, the way that they played Embiid, I think, I'm trying to remember. I think that they had him come in with like a minute left in the first quarter, but this is only 2 minutes into the second quarter. So this is like 2 minutes. Here you would expect, I think it was after a stoppage as well. You would expect that this isn't like a tired thing. This is just kind of a lazy thing, unfortunately, by Embiid. Here gets the early matchup on Hart. He's going to keep trying to fight, scratch claw for position. Payne has to come over and foul him. Absolutely had to. Embiid lived at the foul line in this game. He ends up taking 8 free throws, made all of them, did a good job taking care of his business there, but that's the kind of stuff that works. This is the fuller version of that set we saw earlier with a cross screen on the baseline. This is a horns action. So for people who don't know horns, 2 guys at the elbows here. This is basically at the elbow for Martin. You have a man at the baseline corner on that side. Embiid is on the baseline corner this side. Lowry entries the ball into Martin. Sometimes in these sets, you can have the guard just go and shoot through very quickly and try and get an easy cut. Lowry doesn't do that here. He goes across. And now we're setting a screen here for Joel in order to get Joel to flash across and hopefully get position for a paint touch. If they switch it, great. We've got Brunson on Joel Embiid. If not, hopefully that screen, and Kyle Lowry is a very good screener for a guard, is going to allow them just a little bit of space to be able to get to where they want to go. Embiid is just wide ass open here. He's got Towns sealed because he uses the elbow super well. He's wide open, still wide open. He can't believe it. His hands are literally up. Just like, what the fuck, man? What's going on? How can I be this open? Eventually they get him the ball. Towns has to foul him. Yeah, they're just not totally cohesive yet either. That's another issue that is occurring, unfortunately, here. Embiid again goes up. Early ball screen for Paul George. This is the kind of stuff that I think can work. Just get an early screen for PG, just right in transition here. Essentially an empty, if I remember correctly. Yep, that is an empty because you got Caleb Martin in the corner there. It's a really hard guard, especially when it's Jericho Sims. You know the Knicks are going to go under this stuff. It's a good shot. It's a really, really good shot. I like that. I think that's something that can work. I do think Embiid's presence did open some things up for the Sixers. That's one example. We'll get to another one later. Here, tries to get early position against Towns. turnaround jumper. I mean, this is one where we just like kind of can't have it this early in the third quarter. 15 seconds left on the shot clock, guys. This is a horrendous shot. You are double teamed here. That is 1, 2 players guarding you with very long arms. Fade away. I get that you're an MVP candidate. That's not the shot we want if you're a 76ers fan. Again, this is a fun little inversion on the set they ran earlier. So this time they have Embiid bring the ball up the court. This is a horn set, as you can see. George filtering to the corner. Got Lowry here. You've got another man in Caleb Martin here. I don't remember who's in the corner. Might be Kyle Lowry. Entry pass to the elbow. And again, remember how I said before, sometimes the guy who makes the entry pass and is the nominal point guard will just cut to the basket. Well, Joel here cuts to the basket. By cutting to the basket, and because there's a bit of confusion up here with Towns, who gets screened, OG Anunoby has to tag here. He's got to be here. That opens up Paul George wide ass open in the corner. Cash. So Embiid's presence, like you can see the outlines of how he's creating more creative offensive sets for the 76ers. You can see how this will work when he gets into more settled game shape. Maybe you can see how this will work when the team definitely has Tyrese Maxey. That's the biggest key here, is they're going to get Tyrese Maxey back and they're going to be able to run a lot of different stuff. But obviously this was not an awesome game from Embiid just because he wasn't 100%. It didn't feel like yet. Let's get to a quick little note from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action. There are over 10 million members. Like I said a second ago, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks always puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. We are big fans of Prize Picks here. We absolutely love the app and what they're doing for the daily fantasy sports scene. Download the app today and use code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific product disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. So this one, again, horns action, same deal. Instead of cutting here, this is literally the next possession. This is beautiful. Last time he did this. This time, the screen comes from Kyle Lowry. He gets Towns. Embiid shoots a 3 off of a flare there. So, me personally, if this is Joel Embiid, like I would prefer he shoots this a lot quicker before Towns can get a contest on that shot. But, you know, again, you can see some creativity in what they're running here. You can see some interesting things here. Quick little flip screen. This time drills the three. Having a 5-out big man is going to open things up for them in a significant way. It's just that they looked a little bit slow tonight. Once Maxi's back, that will change. The reason I grabbed this one is because, again, I think it shows just the impact of Embiid being on the court. So he's going to set these screens here. He's going to pop. Oh, no, here's the next one. Sorry about that. So he's going to take this ball here. He's going to get 2 on the ball. You've got Towns and Deuce here. They have 3 guys over here. 1, 2, 3 for 2 Knicks players. You should have an advantage. Now Lowry ends up losing it. But again, he gets the ball. They double with Bridges. And you have 2 guys here for 3 players again. That's a long closeout for Deuce McBride. He gets driven on the closeout, forces the help from Mikal Bridges. And that's how that creates an open shot. But that stems from Embiid. That stems from Embiid taking up so much of a defense's energy. Again, to the point about this horn set getting a little bit predictable. They ran this a bunch. Again, we're going to have Lowry come all the way around, set this screen here on Towns. Now watch Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride just gets in there and tries to bump him. I mean, you guys tell me if you think, look, Deuce McBride played football. He was a good football player in Ohio. You guys tell me if you think Joel Embiid is going down on a bump there from Deuce McBride. I'm skeptical. I'm a little skeptical. I mean, just look at the extra hop step. I mean, you can see Deuce's reaction. He's just like, you fell for that? Come on, man. Come on. So this set is interesting. I grabbed this one for a very specific reason. So I really like the idea of this combination of players, Gershon Yabusele and Joel Embiid. The reason I like it is that Yabusele has turned into a real shooter. I don't know what he's shooting this year. I'll look it up while we're talking. But over his time in Europe, Yabusele has become like a 40% three-point shooter at this point in his life. So he's already shooting 43% from 3 this year. It feels like it when you watch him as a shooter. I love the idea of this. Here's the problem, though, with this, to me. Really, you want Yabusele being the one popping, and you want Embiid rolling. But typically, you want the first one through to roll. In the way that most teams play these, double drags, double screens at the top, whatever you want to call them, is that they will switch the first one or just like play it straight through the first one. and then play drop with the second one if you have Towns or somebody like that out there. With McCain, that's not really an advantage being created for the defense. And as you can see here, there's no real advantage created here. It just turns into a contested mid-range or a 3-point jumper. I'm sorry. Will that change with Maxey? Yes, but you could just theoretically switch it if Yabusele is there instead. I would be intrigued with them, though, in the right matchups, going Embiid as the inside player here, Yabusele is the outside player, Yabusele popping to this area, and Embiid rolling to the rim. I'll be interested to see if that's an adjustment from Nick Nurse at some point. I know that you want to get the center out there on the second screen. That's kind of the goal. But I wonder if their personnel matches that necessarily well. So here, Embiid. Now I put these on here. I put a couple on here because later in the game, they started like showing and recovering with Embiid, which was not something that it's like a college basketball Tony Bennett-ass defense. I'm not totally sure I understand why we're doing this. Nice set from the Knicks, by the way, here. So just early entry here. Go down, screen, get into a dribble handoff with Jalen Brunson. Why we're showing and recovering, I don't know. Like at first I thought like Embiid might have made a mistake, but then on the next defensive possession, you're going to see that it's very clear that they were just showing and recovering at a certain point. And unfortunately, this team or this game did get away from them a little bit late. This is a nice little simple play here. Embiid feels the switch. Andy knows he has Brunson there. You can see Joel communicating. He feels he has Mikal here. He's telling, hey, get to the elbow here because he knows that they can high-low them. Instead, McCain gets to the elbow and they still high-low them. It's really sharp. It's good work. Again, so very high ball screen here. And we're showing, and now we're just like switching here. I genuinely have no idea why you would switch a screen this far away from the rim. And I think Doughton like doesn't really know what they're doing either. Like I think this was just a pure, I'm just gonna like go for this from Embiid. He's kind of freelanced here and decided I'm gonna switch. Sits down and guards him. I mean, he gets absolutely toasted and then ends up getting the foul. I mean, you can just see by the way Doughton defends it that he's expecting a switch as we get back. Like Doughton like goes around it and comes here. He's thinking, okay, we're going to switch. We're not switching this. Like you're just showing and recovering. But nope, that's not where this goes. It's not a lot of cohesion either. And that's to be expected. I mean, look at how many players. I mean, Joel has never played with, I mean, he might have played like a dozen minutes with Jeff Doughton before, but like never played with Jared McCain, never played with Yabu, right? Like this stuff's going to take some time. I mean, again, just like doesn't seem to have that same level of coordination and like suddenness that he normally has. Towns just gets up and blocks this. Yabu fights for a rebound. Good swat there from Embiid. Good weak side rotation. And finally, on the defensive end, I think this is the last one. I mean, this is one where Towns just absolutely torches him, right? At first, I kind of wondered like if they're in zone, but they're not. And the reason you can see that they're not is you can see that Embiid here switches with Oubre, tells Oubre to come up, take Anunoby. That way he can be the low man defensively. Even though it's on Deuce. Comes over, blocks this one, but the next one, maybe this is zone. No, it's not, because George is following Anunoby. So here, Joel just kind of gets caught. Lowry gets beat here by Hart, which means George has to at least like be available to step up. Joel's arm is here. He's trying to like stay attached in some respect to Anunoby and just know where he is. And right when he does that, Towns flashes, but he needs to be available to be there. He needs to really just stay with Towns there. Gets beat, gets cooked. And then this one I put on here because this is just a really nice action. We can go empty with Paul George. Going empty with Paul George should generally work. They get to drop immediately. Towns plays drop. That's a clean look. I'm comfortable with that one finally. But overall, it was just not a great performance by the 76ers. That's okay. Like, we don't need to overreact to it. They're 2-8. That's a real problem. But the East is so bad that things are generally fine for them. I think that they're probably 4 games back of the top 2 now, something like that. So the Magic are 6-6. The Sixers are 2-8. So really only 3 games back in the loss column, 2 games back in the loss column, 3 games back overall of third place in the East. They're okay. The East is just such a shit show right now that by and large, they're going to have some time to get it together and hopefully figure some things out. But really, they need Embiid to play. They need Paul George to play. They need Maxey to play and like get back. The reason for that is that this team just needs some time to play together. They need some cohesion. They need some overall just time on court together above anything else. So that's where I stand there on the 76ers. We'll see what they look like later this week.